People say that football's a results business, and to a certain extent that might be true. However, it's also about the entertainment factor for me. So in today's video, we're going to be ranking championship clubs by how entertaining I personally think they all are to watch. Let's jump into this one. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Now this one's going to be a bit of an opinionated one. I'm very interested to hear your guys' thoughts on this one in the comments down below. First of all, how entertaining do you think your side is to watch, and who do you think are the most and least entertaining sides to watch in the championship? Because this one's all about personal taste really at the end of the day, isn't it? Some people are going to enjoy sort of possession football, some people are going to enjoy like heavy metal football, even direct style of play, and people can find enjoyment out of. But I had the idea and I thought we'd run with it for today's video. If you do go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like. If we could hit 300, that would be massively appreciated. So these are the categories that we're going to be judging every championship club by. Bottom tier is TV off. So whenever this club, you know, gets a gig on Sky or anything like that, I'm not even going to bother tuning in because I know that it's going to be an absolute ball fest. Tier above that is boring, so just your standard, not expecting much week to week. The middle tier is sometimes maybe good,
sometimes maybe shit.
Tier above that is the good stuff, and then the top tier is scintillating. Who can we expect the best football from? So yeah, from your club, I'd like to know which tier you'd personally put them in. But without any further ado, let's jump into this tier list. So we'll go through all these clubs in just a random order. We'll start out with setting the bar high with Fulham, straight into that scintillating top tier. That sets the precedent for the type of clubs that I want in there. But you don't score 49 goals by this point of the season and not be a top side to watch. They've obviously got the individuals to go ahead and do that, but Marco Silva's got them set up in a system which is fantastic to watch. And although there have been a few sort of hiccups, minor ones here and there throughout the season, on the whole, they're having a very good side to watch. You know, fullbacks bombing on, playing out from the back. The service into Mitrovic has been fantastic, and yeah, I mean, we saw them put 7 goals past Blackburn. Of course, they're always going to go into the top tier. Speaking of Blackburn Rovers, let's go for them next. And do you know what? I've sort of done a flip of my opinion on Tony Mowbray this season, because in years gone by, I always found Blackburn a little bit dull at times to watch, but this season I have flipped my opinion on them a little bit, and I do think that it is the good stuff that they've been playing so far this season. It's a very much sort of a counter-attacking sort of game they play, but I like the fluidity that they've got with the forward three. You know, it's quite interchangeable, those three players, but Ben Brereton Diaz has been absolutely fantastic to watch this season. Tyrese Dolan, you know, a compilation will come out of him at the end of the season. He's had some terrific moments as well, and overall the sort of counter-attacking style I can get on board with, and yeah, I quite enjoyed that from them so far this season. Let's go for the other side though, and Bristol City. I'm not going to lie, maybe a TV off sort of situation here. I think I'm between the bottom two for Bristol City, if I'm honest. Now, Bristol City have their merits by, I like watching some of their individuals. You know, if Daniel Bentley has a great game in there, he's probably one of the most entertaining goalkeepers in the league to watch. Hanno Masenga, we've talked up about him throughout the season, and maybe someone like Andy Weimann, if he has a moment of magic or something like that. But in terms of the actual system, and if we're judging this off like a 90-minute basis and how the sort of football that Pearson's got them playing, I'm not rushing to turn the TV on if Bristol City are on Sky, I'm not going to lie. So I think it might be a TV off in that sort of situation. Next up, let's go for West Brom under Valérien Ismaël. And this is a tough one to judge because my opinion sort of flipped on this one as well. Now, Valérien Ismaël with Barnsley last season, I'd probably put as high as scintillating. I absolutely loved watching Valball last season. At the start of the season, West Brom, it seemed like things were clicking and things were falling into place. And on the whole, I thought they were a pretty entertaining side to watch. However, over the past month or so, they've dropped down in my estimations a little bit. I don't know why this has happened, whether it is a case of teams figuring them out and they're not really adapting to that, but West Brom of late haven't been a particularly great watch. When they're fully at it, they can be really good, but at the moment it's just not clicking for them. So that sometimes may be a good category. I think suits West Brom down to a T at this point in time. Next up, let's go for Swansea City. This one's going to be quite a divisive one, I feel like, because, you know, very sort of possession heavy football. Some people aren't going to be massively into that one, you know, in terms of style of play. So I mean, some people will probably have Swansea and TV off, but to be honest, I can get on board with this type of thing. It definitely and still does have some teething problems with defensive mistakes, playing out from the back, but even that at times adds to the entertainment value. And when you see some of the goals that Swansea is scoring now in terms of, building that play out from the back, nothing beats that for me. So Swansea, I think, have to go into the good stuff. And once Russell Martin properly has them, playing at the peak of their powers, they could even go into scintillating. But for the time being, I'm going to put Swansea in the good stuff. I've enjoyed watching them so far this season. Next then, let's go for Middlesbrough. Now, if I'm judging this off Warnock ball, I'm probably putting them in boring, and I think that Middlesbrough fans would agree with that. But on the small sample size of matches that we've seen so far under Chris Wilder, I'd have to bump them up a tier, I think. I think on the whole, in those 3 matches that we've seen of them, they have been pretty entertaining to watch, and as that continues to develop over the season, we may even have them in the good stuff by the end of it if he gets them playing to the peak of their powers. So yeah, there's potential with that Middlesbrough squad, but a little bit iffy with them at the moment. Probably another team who I'd throw in there will be Birmingham. Fairly sort of inconsistent throughout the season in terms of results and performances. Probably follow along with that as well. I know that injuries haven't helped them at times, but at the start of the season, when Chong was absolutely brilliant in terms of the creative numbers that he was putting up. Although recently the football has been pretty slow. I may change that one come the end of the video. In terms of a team who I also think I'm going to have to throw into TV off, I'd probably have to say Barnsley so far this season. Now, on a few occasions, their games have been entertaining, whereby the opposition have just, ran through them completely. But in terms of watching a Barnsley game for Barnsley and the football they play, I'm not really sure what they've been trying to do so far this season. It's been quite slow and tedious, and there's been really next to nothing in terms of goal mouth action. They're the lowest scorers in the Championship at the moment, so Barnsley so far this season I think have to be a TV off sort of side. Let's go on the opposite side of the scale though, and QPR, I think I'm going to have to throw in scintillating, both for goals scored, goals conceded, iconic moments late on in matches. We only have to look at that last one against Derby on the Monday night. What a goal, by the way, from Andre Gray to seal that one up in the dying moments of that match. But yeah, that's what QPR have got in them. We know they'll be quite leaky at the back, and that's because they throw so many people forward. Playing with those 2 number 10s as well, and all the options they have in terms of their strikers. QPR have been a really good watch so far this season, and are now all the way up in 3rd in the Championship. One team who I probably would have had in that scintillating category based on the first few months of the season, but I think have just dropped down slightly in my estimations, have probably been Stoke City. Another side who have been affected by injuries. I think that has affected their sort of play style, particularly losing Harry Souttar and Nick Powell, 2 absolutely massive players in terms of their style of play. But to be honest with you, out of every team that's come to Deepdale so far this season, the side who I personally think have played the most attractive football at Deepdale probably was Stoke, but from that point onwards, they've had a couple of dodgy performances. The addition of Varancic was absolutely massive for them, but yeah, as of late, I just dropped them down a tier from that top tier because performances have maybe slowed up ever so slightly since then. We'll have to throw someone into the boring category. I think I'm going to go with Cardiff in that aspect. Now, if this was purely off McCarthy ball at the start of the season, I'd be tempted to go TV off, but I can find a little bit of joy with the way that Cardiff played at the start of the season. Ryan Giles had a few moments of magic. Thinking back to that sort of Blackpool away performance, there was a really nice goal scored on the counter-attack in that one. And I do see the sort of shift of the style since Morrison has been given the job there. He's trying to transition that now away from the complete sort of, Route 1 direct McCarthy ball that we were originally seeing. A few more youngsters coming up through that side at the moment. Don't get me wrong, they're certainly not like Fulham to watch at the moment, but I think that boring category, on the whole, based on this season, probably is fair enough at this point in time. One side who I'm struggling to rank is probably Reading. I'm between these 2 categories right here, and I can't quite ever put my finger on Reading. The reason being, in terms of the actual system that they play, I'm not sure it's all too entertaining. However, they have individuals, and they have quite a number of individuals actually, who do just come up with these moments of magic. Like John Swift will score an outrageous goal out of absolutely nothing after Reading have created like literally nothing for like 70 minutes. So from that aspect, they can be quite entertaining to watch from time to time. But in terms of you know, the overall system and things, it can be a little bit slow at times. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because they do have individuals who I find very entertaining to watch, but they can be very hit and miss, Reading. Next then, let's go for Sheffield United. We've got the other two relegated clubs already in there, so where would I place them? I think my expectations were fairly high with Sheffield United this season, with, you know, Jokanovic coming in there and the personnel that they've got in that squad. Still to this day, you know, it's a very talented team for the Championship, but on the whole, the football that's been played this season has been pretty boring for me. It's always been a bit slow, tedious, there's not really much tempo to their play, and I know that, you know, it may seem a little bit weird that I've got Swansea up there and the good stuff and Sheffield United down in boring, obviously both possession orientated football, but there's been a difference in the approaches so far this season, and with that level of expectancy because of the personnel that they've got in that squad, yeah, I'd have to say it's been pretty dull for Sheffield United so far this season. But hey, maybe Paul Heckingbottom is the man to bring the entertaining back to Bramall Lane. We shall wait and see. Luton, sometimes maybe good. I think it's fair for them this season. They've had some really good performances when, you know, they've got the press spot on and they've been, you know, creating plenty of chances in the final third. But they've also been undone a couple of times and have come a little bit unstuck in some matches as well. So I think in that middle tier for Luton is probably fair for where they're at the moment in terms of the level of football that we're getting from them. Millwall. Where do I place Gary Rowett's Millwall on this list? I have to be honest, I'm between the bottom two categories. I'm not a massive fan of Rowett ball. If I was to go in this category, it would be because, I mean, they can have moments, and I think they're up against maybe some of the tougher opposition is when their, you know, game plan can really sort of kick into effect. But when it's on Millwall to properly take the game to the opposition, I think they can end up coming unstuck unless Jed Wallace, you know, conjures up a moment of magic by himself. It is effective football they play, and I'm not taking that away from them. But in terms of entertainment value, I'm not rushing to put the TV on if it's Millwall, I don't think, which is a shame because I do remember Millwall coming to Deepdale a few years ago and it was still Gary Rowett who was the manager there, and it was a brilliantly entertaining performance. You know, they were playing with overlapping centre-halves and everything like that, but that level of consistency in terms of performance levels hasn't really been there for Millwall over the last few years now, I think it's fair to say. Peterborough, between these two, maybe give them the benefit of the doubt because you can see that they are trying to play football in the right way, and I've got to respect them for that, but it's not always come off this season. In fact, sometimes it's been absolutely catastrophic with some of the mistakes they've been making at the back, but maybe that has led to some sort of entertainment value. But when they do get things spot on in the final third, and I'm thinking to some of those home matches, you know, in the first couple of months of the season, it was good to watch. You know, Dembele's fantastic to watch when he's on song. Clark Harris we've probably not seen the best of so far, but we've seen small glimpses, so around about that tier for Peterborough. I also think I'd have Huddersfield in that sometimes maybe good category. There have been shades of, you know, them under Carlos Corberán, particularly last season when, like, Josh Koroma was, you know, fully in form. They were getting the fullbacks bombing on when it was like Pippa and Toffolo at peak fitness and things like that, and they would be a little bit leaky at the back, but they would be good to watch going forward. This season's been a little bit of a flip of that. I do think they've been more resolute this season, but in the final third, maybe not as entertaining to watch. There's been a bit more of a reliance on goals from set pieces and things like that, so sometimes maybe good would probably be a more fair estimation for Huddersfield so far this season. Coventry, I just think they're riding the wave this season. I'm going to put them in scintillating. I think it does have a part to play of, you know, them being back at the Ricoh and things like that, having that bounce. The atmosphere looks really good in that stadium at the moment. They're creating chances. They're playing football in, you know, for me personally, the right way, the sort of stuff that I like to see. Gyökeres was, you know, in the form of his life in the first few months of the season. Callum O'Hare, I think, has had his moments as well. So, yeah, Coventry for me have been one of the most entertaining sides to watch so far this season. So, without a doubt, they get put into that category for me. Derby, I'm going to put in sometimes maybe good. I think that if they had a bit more quality in that squad, they'd even maybe be pushing on the good stuff. I respect what Rooney's trying to do with this group of players. He's trying to get them playing in the way, you know, playing out from the back, building up the play and stuff like that, get them on the ball and dominating possession. It's just that in the final third, they've not always had the right personnel to go ahead and kill off those games. But I can see what he's trying to do. Next then for Preston North End, I'm not going to lie, it's not been great football to watch so far this season. I certainly think that if I wasn't a North End fan, it would be TV off without a question. The only thing that I'm thinking maybe I could bump us up a tier is because, you know, the moments that Emile Reece has had so far this season have been pretty entertaining to watch. But on the whole, in terms of like footballing philosophy, how it's been to watch, you know, going on game week to game week, following North End on away matches and stuff like that so far this season, the vast majority of it has been really turgid stuff so far this season. I think that's where the majority of the frustration comes for Frankie McAvoy at the moment. The fact that we don't look particularly sort of well coached or organised in some of our matches. And I mean, the flip side of that was, you know, the second half against Fulham, because that was, you know, good stuff to watch. We're having a go at them. We had that press about us. You know, the midfield of Whiteman and McCann was working perfectly. If we can show that more consistently throughout this season, then fans' opinions might start to change. But for the vast majority of it this season, oh, it's been so boring on Deepdale. So boring. On the other end of that, we're going to have Bournemouth, who I'm going to have to put into that scintillating tier. I think they're definitely in my top 4 most entertaining sides to watch, and that has maybe come as a bit of a surprise to me so far this season, because on the whole, Scott Parker's Fulham side last time in the Championship, I didn't think were a particularly great watch, if I'm honest, considering all the sort of star power that they had. It was a little bit slow, but Bournemouth certainly have a lot more speed about their play. I do think they have been affected recently by injuries to the likes of you know, Zamora and Kelly, who have particularly impacted them on that left-hand side and their ability to sort of build out from the back and have those transitions on the left. But on the whole, good stuff from Bournemouth. Score plenty of goals, plenty of goal mouth action going on in there, and yeah, fair play to Scott Parker, who's got them playing some good stuff. Next then for Nottingham Forest, we're just coming off the back of 2 goalless draws for Nottingham Forest, aren't we? So that's going to be playing in the back of my mind in terms of where I'm going to place them on this tier list. Start of the season under Chris Hughton, they were definitely TV off. We then got a little bit of a bounce, obviously, under Steve Cooper, but for the whole of the season, I'd probably chuck Forest into boring, to be honest with you. They've not been the most sort of exciting, flashy side to watch as the season's gone on. Don't get me wrong, they've had, you know, moments of quality here and there, but yeah, on the whole, I think I would have to still probably throw Forest into boring. A lot of draws for them recently under Steve Cooper, which they need to find the formula to go ahead and stop. I'd probably also throw Hull into a similar category. Another team who have had moments. Obviously, they're on a great winning streak at the moment. I think a large part of that is due to them solidifying themselves a little bit at the back and defensively. But once again, on the whole, not been a side that I've particularly been rushing to watch so far this season. And then that just leaves us with Blackpool, who I'll give the benefit of that. I'll probably throw into that middle category. I'm probably, you know, more so between these two than I am these two here for Blackpool, but I'll probably throw them into that middle category. Blackpool on the other side, who have had a fair few amount of draws recently, obviously bit of a slow start to this season, but once they finally managed to find their groove, I do also think that they've got some pretty entertaining individuals, you know, the likes of Bowler, who I still think tops the Championship list in terms of most completed dribbles this season, Keshi Anderson, who has some really nice flicks throughout the match and stuff like that. But for Blackpool, I think they're still fairly low down in terms of like shots per 90 and, you know, the actual goal mouth action and stuff like that. So yeah, sometimes maybe good, I think, is fair enough for where Blackpool are at this point in time. That's the tier list that I've compiled though. Would I make any changes to this one? I feel like we're too heavy in this middle category here. I feel like I'm going to need to either move some teams up or move some teams down. I think Birmingham, I may have to move down into that boring category. Lately especially, I don't think they've been a particularly great watch. Not all too many goals being scored there and things like that. And I also think maybe I could drag Reading down into boring as well. It really depends if John Swift shows up for them. But the actual system, like we were talking about before, hasn't always been great to watch so far this season. But they, another side obviously, who haven't been helped with injuries. But I think I'll just leave it at that. That looks a little bit more balanced. I'm very interested to get your guys' takes on this one in the comments down below. This is going to be such an opinion splitter, I'm sure, but I want to know your guys' thoughts on this one. Who plays the most attractive football in the Championship and who's the most boring side? Let me know. Apart from that though, guys, that will now wrap it up for today's video. This one was just for a little bit of fun, but if you did go in to enjoy, make sure to leave a like. It is always massively appreciated, and do stay subscribed for some regular Championship content. Thanks for watching though, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.